Hi, I'm Chike Coleman from Sound on Sight and the Wheelchair Watcher. That's Chuck Koplinski of the News Gazette and the Springfield, Illinois Times. Sorry, Illinois
Somewhere
Times.
down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is Real Reviews of the Cinematic Underground, the show where we talk about movies that are in theaters on DVD and maybe a little bit of The Flash every week. So this week, Chuck, it's been a while since we've shot a show. Maybe a week, 2 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in that time,
Enough time for you to lose your hair.
yeah, enough time for me to completely lose my hair in a bet. It was
Okay, well, get to it, Lex.
horrible Illinois game.
Okay, Lex. All right.
So this week we're going to talk about two films. First of which is going to be a film by Damien Chazelle called Whiplash. The film stars Miles Teller, J.K. Simmons, Melissa Benoist, and Paul Reiser. Miles Teller plays a kid named Andrew Neiman, who is a budding jazz drummer at the Shaper Conservatory. And while he's practicing in one of the practice rooms one night, the teacher he admires most, Terrence Fletcher, played by J.K. Simmons, comes in and says, I want to try out for my studio band if you can do a double time swing. Miles Teller attempts the double time swing and fails. And to his sadness, the director of the studio band leaves. And then a couple of days later, the studio band director is looking for new players. Listens to Teller again, try double time swing, which Teller has been practicing ferociously ever since. And he gets in the band, and when he gets in the band, he learns exactly what makes the studio band players so good. The fierce Full Metal Jacket style teaching style that Simmons employs, insulting and berating every one of his players at every chance he gets to make them better players. And that is the premise behind Whiplash. There's also a love subplot with Melissa Benoist's character, Nicole, where he tries to enter into a relationship and then realizes through practicing that he cannot. Chuck, I would usually start with you on what you think of the film.
Dude, it's your show.
But
Do your
I'm going to go with me for the first time in probably 7 or 8 shows for the simple fact that I think I have a different take on this than you do.
Okay.
This film is spectacular, without a doubt. Teller does a lot of his own drumming. He's been playing drums since the age of 15, which I think helped him here as he went through a drumming boot camp to learn how to do jazz drumming. Teller is spectacular here, mostly because he does something we haven't seen from him yet, which is a level of vulnerability and rawness that I think is not new to acting. Actors can pull it off all the time. I just haven't seen it done so well from him since The Spectacular Now. This film, I think, is about finding a direction in life. And being directionless is exactly what Teller's Neiman character does not want to be. He wants to be somebody, more specifically, the best jazz drummer humanly possible. And it's the scene in the cafe between Teller and Benoist, who play Neiman and Nicole, respectively, where he talks about how much he despises the idea of a lack of direction that really tells me that this film is about wanting to be something rather than being nothing. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with jazz drumming or art, just in life in general. And I think that that's a very powerful message that this film sends. Now, a lot of critics and film reviewers have gone on to say that the rivalry between both Simmons and Teller in this film is really what purports the film to such heights. But really, I think it's that conflict in connection with the idea of Teller not wanting to be directionless in this film that really gives the film its power. And of course, this film would be nothing without the great musical direction and direction in general of Damien Chazelle, who he himself has experienced something like this in his own life. And I think that drawing from inspiration in your own life is really sometimes what makes the best films. In this case, I think Whiplash succeeds on all levels in that, especially in the final 15 minutes of this film when Teller has to come face to face with how he wants to be perceived as an artist and even more importantly as a man. Chuck, what did you think of Whiplash?
It'll be in my top 5 this year. I love this movie. I really love this movie. I think what you're saying about it is right, but I think it's also just a angry cry at our acceptance of mediocrity in our society today. A character like Teller's character here anymore is incredibly unique when you see someone with the work ethic that he has and the drive he has. I think at one point the Simmons character says there's no more damaging words in the English language than good job. And I think that sums up the entire thing. We have become lazy. No one, very few people push themselves to excel at the level that this kid does, because I think that very few people have someone on their back like this character does. We're also concerned about being too nice. So, don't yell at them.
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
It's okay. We become a bunch of pussies. Sorry. And this is a screed against that. And that's one of the reasons I love this movie. He's incredibly mean. He's incredibly abusive. And you know what? Sometimes you need that.
What happens in the first 5 minutes within the practice room, where you see the military precision at which Simmons commands the room, and when he motions them to start playing, and they play for a little while, and then he stops it, and I'm not going to repeat the quote in full, but Simmons says something to the effect of, "This instrument is not your boyfriend. Do not start moving too early." It's one of those moments that you're just like, okay, I know what this is, and I'm ready for it. And every time you think you're ready for this, you're not. Not in the least bit.
Well, he's a master manipulator, and it's, the mental games that he plays, I think, are, just, wonderful. There's one surprise after another, all the way right up to the end, when he does something that is unconscionable, I would think. And I love the fact that the Teller character has the fortitude to come back after that. I did not see that coming, and that was a triumph for
And how he comes back.
That's what I mean. The comeback is just wow.
I want to say something about the music in this film.
Yeah. It's great. It has to be.
The music guides this film. It moves things from one place to another in such a seamless transition that you're not even really thinking about it. You're like, oh, we're here now, and now we're here, and now we're here. It doesn't just complement the movie. It's almost like another character in the film.
Well, I think there's two things that move this film along. One is the music, the other is the editing. When you go back and you watch the editing of this film, it's incredibly sharp. It's incredibly quick at times. And I'm not sure, I need to see it again, but I would almost think that it almost matches musical beats at times, the way it moves things along, especially during the practice sessions.
Yeah.
I need to watch that again, but I think that that's what the thinking was. And, I love movies like this because it's very basic. It's very basic. We have no special effects, we have no this, we have no that. It's two good characters, it's good writing, it's basic filmmaking done well. Basic editing, basic film, camera movement and placement, good acting, good writing, and it all comes together wonderfully. This one, there are so many movies we see during a year that as soon as you walk out to the parking lot, you've forgotten all about them.
Yeah.
This is one that sticks with you.
This is one that immediately after I watched it, I wanted to see it again.
You want to watch it again, yeah. Exactly.
Did you see it more than once, I have to ask?
I have not seen it more than once. I've had too many movies to watch lately, but obviously I do want to go back and see it again.
Yeah, that movie, I think I would love to see Teller get a nomination, but let's be really honest.
Won't happen. It's too crowded this year.
It's J.K. Simmons.
Yeah. He's the one who, we're starting to see these awards things come out now, and there's some things emerging that are consistent, and he's one of them.
I do want to give special credit to Paul Reiser, ironically.
Yeah, he kind of came out of nowhere as the Teller character's father. Good job. Couple scenes, but
couple scenes, but they're really strong and they really make you feel like you're watching a father care for his son.
Yeah.
And I also want to count the dinner table scene because
Yes.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's there with his cousins
yeah.
and his uncle.
Yeah, and
father.
my favorite, I have a lot of the favorite insults of that movie, but the line that always sticks with me is the fact that he says, "Well, we play Division III NCAA football, and that must be rewarding for you," Teller says. And he's like, "Yeah, it really is. Maybe you should come play with us." And that's 4 words you'll never hear from the NFL.
NFL, that's right.
Like, oh, that's just perfect. And this movie is something that, if you like jazz music, if you've ever had a passion in your life and have settled for mediocrity or want to push yourself to be more, this is the movie to motivate you to go do that thing. I know I've been in several ruts in my life where I thought, oh, you know what, the passions in my life are things that I'm never going to go after. And, you know, now in my late 20s, I'm going after those things and seeing just how rewarding it can be.
Yeah, great film. And it starts at the Art on the 19th.
Yeah, and it'll be there for 2 weeks. So
At least two. At least two.
At least 2. So see it with a crowd because I'm curious as to what the crowd reactions are. I'm going to try and go on the 19th on opening night and see it.
Yeah, and there's another film opening there at the on the 19th that if we have time I'd like to mention.
Okay. The next film I want to talk about is Annie. This is the, I think John Glick is his name?
Will Glick.
Will Glick, I'm sorry, Will Glick.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we need to talk about this. Go ahead.
Will Glick, oh. Produced by Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith.
And Jay-Z. He's listed as one of the many producers here. The Jay-Z.
And Jay-Z. This film is a modern retelling of the musical classic from 1982 starring Eileen Quinn that was directed by John Huston.
Right, but the stage play debuted in
1977, okay.
Yes.
That involves a girl named Annie who is, in this film, a foster child, not an orphan. She doesn't like the term orphan. Who is waiting for her parents. And they give a little nice, neat little piece of background on why she's waiting in the spot she's waiting at, but that's neither here nor there.
No, it isn't.
She's left in the foster care system to be watched by a woman only known as Hannigan, played by Cameron Diaz, who used to be, and this is the only funny
I thought
thing
this was clever,
This is the only funny thing in the movie. Yeah, she used to be a member of CC's Dance Factory, and as we all know, that
Dance Factory
crumbled
one-hit wonder, I think.
horribly
Yeah.
with Everybody Dance Now. And she's watching over these orphans. One day while, racing to get home from, I think it was school, she runs into Will Stacks, the affected Daddy Warbucks of this picture played by Jamie Foxx. He is trying to run for mayor. His approval numbers aren't good, but since he accidentally ended up saving this girl from being hit by a car, everybody now thinks he's a good guy, and he moves foster care child Annie into his
campaign manager.
Okay.
Does that.
His campaign manager does
Played
that.
by Bobby Cannavale.
Who I love as an actor.
Cannavale, yeah.
They move Annie into Stack's penthouse suite with his assistant, whose name I'm not going to remember at all, played by Rose Byrne. And she experiences life in how rich life can be from when you have money. And Will is learning to appreciate life from a lower class standpoint, I suppose.
Becoming more grounded, I think.
Becoming more grounded is the word I'm trying to think of, yeah. Overall, I have to be brutally honest, I hate this movie. I hate this movie so much. Most of it has to do with the music and how I feel worse for the foster children that are actually in Hannigan's care than I actually do for Annie. Usually when you're watching this, you're wanting to see the journey that Annie goes on, how Annie feels about things, how Annie feels about the world. But I just came back to how unique all the other foster children she was friends with were. And they were the ones that I ended up caring about much more than Annie. I hate the character of Hannigan other than that other than her backstory is hilarious, but she's really just a drunk musical has-been. And I really think that, I think it was Carol Channing played the role as well. Was it Carol Channing?
Carol Burnett.
Carol Burnett. I'm sorry, Carol Burnett. Played the role much better, showed much more of the exhaustion of raising those foster children and being cruel than Cameron Diaz does. Cameron Diaz to me is still a pretty face. There was no way to really ugly her up in this film. And the other character I really like is David Zayas as the newsstand owner, who likes Hannigan for some strange reason. But really, the musical direction is what takes me out of the movie, because you're looking forward to hearing those songs, and they've been remixed and redone in fantastically horrible ways. Specifically, the song "I Think I'm Gonna Like It Here" is completely destroyed, because it's literally the character saying those 6 words over and over again while exploring the house. That's it. That's really what the whole song is. And that's just painful to me. And yes, Annie does get a singing moment in the film with a new song that's been added that makes you feel like, oh, she's fine where she belongs. But I really, really, really hate this film. Chuck, what did you think of the Annie 2014 remake?
I don't think I hated it as much as you, but it obviously has a lot of problems. And I think the biggest problem is the director, Will Glick, who previously has directed Easy A and Friends with Benefits, both romantic comedies, which would obviously qualify him to do a musical. I was struck by how there's not one memorable dance or music sequence in this film. There are at least three songs that take place in Hannigan's cramped apartment. There's nowhere to move. There's nothing to do. There are at least 2 songs that take place on the top of Stack's office building, which is completely barren. It is the most visually unimaginative musical I have ever seen. And that was the thing that struck me, that if you have Will Smith and Jay-Z in charge of this, that they didn't look at the dailies and say, you know, wait a second, we've got something really wrong here.
Yeah.
This does not move. It has to move. I don't think that the songs would have appeared or seemed as bad to you had you been distracted by some sort of dance routine or movement.
I agree with you, because I actually went back last night and I watched Annie from 1999, a little bit of
the
that.
TV version.
The TV version
Yeah,
that
and it's
Disney
pretty good.
did. And it's pretty good. And
Yeah.
you got Audra McDonald in the Grace role.
Yeah.
And you're right. I was completely distracted by the movement and all the crazy things going on around Annie when they were singing I Think I'm Gonna Like It Here. But it also made me feel like, oh, she's in this really, really grand place, and she's out of place, and she doesn't really feel like she fits. And I identify with that. Then I go back to the same song in the 2014 version, and it's just things, water shooting up, iPad screens doing weird movement things, and nothing. Just nothing.
I will say, though, that, and the girl, whose name I can never pronounce correctly.
Quvenzhané Wallis.
Whatever. She doesn't have it. She's not quite there as far as the charm or to suck me in, and I don't blame her. I blame the director again. You need a stronger director to give this girl guidance and give a more consistent performance. The only thing I really liked in the movie were the scenes with Byrne and Fox and Cannavale. They had some interactions there, some rat-a-tat dialogue that was like, you know, these 3 together are good. And I enjoyed them. I enjoyed their scenes, but obviously that's not the focus of the film. Yeah, it's a misfire. There's no question about it. And that's too bad, because I love the play. I love the music. It's just, this just doesn't come together.
Easy Street was painful, though.
That was painful. Yeah. I mean, again, most of them are painful here. You know.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. You're going to take your kids to see this, and you're going to be profoundly disappointed. That's wrong.
If they don't know anything about the other versions, maybe they won't.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. If you know nothing about Annie in general, and you're going to see this for the first time, you're going to be fine. But if you have any context whatsoever, you're going to be really, really upset that you took your kid to see this.
And if I remember correctly, when she's singing Tomorrow, isn't she just walking down the street?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that's the showstopper gang, and
No, you're not
she's
doing
just
anything with
walking
it.
down the street.
Even when you're like, there's that other one that the kids do together when it's not even Never Fully Dressed by the Without a Smile, because that's done by artist Sia. Um, the one where they're in like their rooms and they're about to go to sleep and they're singing. I forget what.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just it. I mean, that's the only thing that has movement, and they're not even really doing that much. They're just
Yeah.
tucking themselves in. That's literally the entire point of that scene is they're tucking themselves in. It just didn't have it for me.
Yeah. I agree.
So with that said, do you want to move on to The Flash, or do you want to mention your other movie first?
I do want to mention a film that's coming to the art. It's their late night feature on the 19th and 20th called The Babadook. It's an Australian horror film. First time featured by a woman by the name of Jennifer Kent. And this thing is a knockout. Very low budget movie. It's about a woman who is a widow. Her husband is killed while taking her to the hospital when she's giving birth to their son. This has happened 6 years ago, and her son's birthday is coming around the corner. Needless to say, she has some buried resentment towards her son because she misses her husband terribly, obviously, and she's trying to raise this boy on her own. The boy's troubled. His temper tantrums, and is very afraid of things. The film opens with a scene in his bedroom in which she is required to look under the bed, in the closet, in cabinets, because he's afraid that there is a monster there. What she doesn't realize is that there's a monster there. And it emerges from this book that appears on their doorstep one day called The Babadook. And they read the book, and the monster in the book comes out, and all of a sudden some creepy things start happening in the house, to the point to where she even destroys the book, tears it up into pages, burns it up, throws it away, and it somehow ends up on the kids' bookshelf again. This is an incredibly atmospheric film. Again, another one of those basic movies that I love because it is low budget and it's all about atmosphere.
Do you see the creature at any point?
You see a bit of it, but it is much more a suggested type of thing, okay? And I like horror films that have a subtext or a metaphor. The creature here is her rage. The creature here is her mourning. The creature here is her guilt over feeling animosity towards her child. And she has got to come to terms with this and accept her child for who he is, or they're not going to be able to move on. So there's a lot of subtext going on here, and a lot of creepy stuff that's really gonna get under your skin, and things that'll you'll think about for a long, long time.
My one question is, how is the ending?
Satisfying. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's satisfying, because that's another problem we have with horror films. Many times they don't know how to end them, or they want to end them in such a way where we can make a part 2. That's not the case here. I'm just going to say one way. I'm not going to say whether it's good or bad, but it's a satisfying ending. So The Babadook, it may crack my top 10 this year. I liked it that much. Do a double feature because he's going to have Whiplash and then this film there on Friday and Saturday, the 19th and 20th.
I am torn now in my top for Whiplash and Boyhood. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Next, we should talk about The Flash this week.
The funnest program on television.
Yeah.
So much fun.
You're not going to find a more higher quality superhero program unless you're watching Arrow. You should watch them as a double feature on a Wednesday night because, my goodness, these shows are good. You want to give the plot summary?
Oh, gosh. Well, it's the mid-season cliffhanger. So we finally come to terms and we get some clues as to what happened with the death of Barry's mom. And the Flash's arch nemesis is revealed finally. If you know anything about the character, his big villain is Professor Zoom, or as he is recalled, the Reverse Flash. He is the Flash's Joker, or the Flash's Lex Luthor. And we get some hints as to what his deal is, but we certainly do not get the full story as they try to trap this guy and try to get some answers as to why he killed Barry's mother and how he could have done it and where he's from. We get some clues, but we certainly don't get the whole story. And one of the great things about this episode was the introduction of another DC Comics superhero who saves the day in the end and who hopefully we will see more of. What I like about this show is that it blends humor and excitement, and you just like all the characters. If you didn't like all the characters, it would be all for nothing, but you just like every person in this show.
Really, everyone?
Yeah.
Even Iris?
I love Iris. Iris is conflicted, and I have no problem with that. I love everyone in this show. I'm even intrigued by the bad guys, or the people who we think might be the bad guys.
Yeah. Okay. I love this episode specifically for the fact that Flash and Reverse Flash meet and fight in a freaking football arena. That's just
that's cool. Yeah,
that's just amazing to me. I love the subplot with. I love the Iris subplot with her boyfriend and the fact that he's asked her to move in, and that Barry finally gets the guts to say to Iris, "Look, I know
I love you.
We're step siblings or whatever, but I really do love you. You're the best part of my life." I love that. The idea that there may be, and I don't think this is true, 2 Flashes in this world apart from Barry? Nuts.
Where are you getting that?
Well, you got Reverse Flash and you got Flash, and
Right.
and I'm suggesting that somebody is actually pulling the strings.
I don't think that's nuts. I think there's something to it.
Okay. I want to know your theory because I'm curious about this.
I think that Professor Wells knows everything. And I don't think he is the Reverse Flash. I think he is studying him. I think he has come to an understanding about him. I think his job is to keep the present and the future on track so that Barry can be there for that crisis that is looming in the future, which is referred to by the newspaper he keeps going back to.
And you know who I think he actually is? I think it's Barry.
Grown up?
I think it's grown-up Barry trying to protect himself.
No, I don't think so. But good enough. I think also there's a connection between Iris's boyfriend and the Reverse Flash.
Yeah, I think great-grandson.
Yeah, if you know anything about the name and the comic book, there is a connection there with the last name of the cop character. So there's something happening there. I quite frankly thought that Iris was going to dump him and go with Barry, and that would be the first step towards his. But I thought that would be the first step towards his animosity towards Barry, and then when he finds out who Barry is, that would lead to.
What if Iris dies?
You know what? I would not be surprised.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they've got to kill somebody in this show.
Yeah.
And if it's not Detective West, it's going to be Iris.
Or the boyfriend.
But then how would the animosity be?
Yeah, then that doesn't work. I wouldn't be surprised if Iris died.
Has to be Iris, because how is the animosity? Especially if Barry is revealed to the boyfriend to be the Flash while trying to save Iris.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Let me just say, out of all the shows that I watch that have now gone on their mid-season hiatus, this is the one I can't wait to get back to more than any other show.
What other shows are you watching?
Walking Dead.
Okay.
Gotham.
How's Gotham? Because I checked out of that.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's just too heavy.
Fair enough.
It's just too heavy. But, I'm sticking with it.
What else you got?
Right now, that's about it because we've just been told to wrap up.
I'll make this fast about The Walking Dead. I thought the finale was better than it usually is. I was upset by the death
Heartbreaking.
of Beth. I'm still getting over that. If you saw The Talking Dead after The Walking Dead, watching Emily Kinney cry on that couch was heartbreaking. I am glad to know that Morgan is still on Rick's trail, and I want Morgan to be a part of the show permanently. Whether that's going to happen or not, I do not know, but I want that to happen. That's pretty much all we've got for this week's show. We will see you in the new year where we will be starting our 5th year on the air.